On today's edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast, we are speaking with a newly minted PMEA Hall of Famer as she is about ready to enter retirement on today's PMEA's Take Note podcast. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast. I'm Mark Despotakis. We are on the road again today. We are here at Seton Hill University, and I'm delighted to be joined by Campbell, professor of music here at Seton Hill, also newly minted PMEA Hall of Famer.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, it's great to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
So, many reasons we want to talk to you, but like you're coming up on retiring from a career that I don't think there's anybody who doesn't know your name in Pennsylvania and who maybe has not been in an honors band under you. So I'm curious to kind of maybe level set and start off. Kind of take us through your career, maybe from that first moment of what instrument I'm going to pick to where you are today.
Sure, yes. Well, first, I'd just say I've been lucky. I was really lucky. I was born into a very musical family. My grandfather was a piano tuner by trade. He and my grandmother ran the Greensburg Piano Company for 50 years. He was also a vaudeville performer.
Wow.
Yeah, string player. And then my mother was a music educator and pianist and vocalist, and she taught for over 30 years and was a church organist for 50 years. So it was just part of our culture. Mm-hmm. I was also really lucky that we happened to live in a district where my elementary, junior high, and senior high band directors were all clarinet and saxophone people.
Okay.
So what are the chances of that happening?
What was the balance like in that high school band?
Yeah, right. We had some pretty darn good woodwind players, yeah. And some of them I continue to make music with.
Okay.
So lifelong journey there. Also, because of the family culture, private study was just kind of part of what we did. So I began piano lessons actually here at Seton Hill when I was 5 years old with Sister Angeline, and so I was really very lucky to have this as just part of what we lived. Mm-hmm. And I participated in all the school ensembles. But quite honestly, I was never sure, even as a high school student, do I practice enough to do this as a profession? I think that's just something that you're always wondering about, like, how, what would my life be like if I commit to this and really dedicate my life to it? And of course, then, when you audition for some of those high school honors experiences and you get some positive feedback, then that kind of affirms, like, maybe I should think about doing this. I will tell you, my mother, who was a pianist and vocalist and taught elementary general music, and she had dual certification, so she taught in the classroom third, fourth, and fifth grade too. When I shared with her that I was thinking about pursuing a career as a band director, she very wisely said to me, "Are you sure you want to move that much equipment the rest of your life?"
Well.
Yes, right. So I came here as an undergraduate student in music education, saxophone, my primary performing instrument. But I participated in, all of the ensembles and had some wonderful mentors here. And then I went to the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music for my graduate work in wind conducting. And, at the time, I never gave it a thought that it was unusual for women to pursue that path. No one here ever said to me, are you sure that that's what you want to do? Because, not many women do that. Everyone here was just very supportive of.
So when you were here, were there other females?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but
it didn't.
No, it didn't. And I had some really wonderful male mentors who encouraged me to. You should think about doing this. I was also, of course, drum major in high school, and really enjoyed being in that position. More about like helping the ensemble to rise to a higher level of performance, and so having really diverse experiences was interesting and very helpful for my career. Came from a really large high school to a small college, and then to a very large conservatory for graduate school. So all of those experiences kind of informed who I was as a musician and as an educator, and I think helped me to kind of meld all of the good things about those experiences into my philosophy of education and my approach to teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and back here at Seton Hill, which I guess is really cool for you, and it's kind of full circle.
Yeah. So what I discovered about myself is that I loved the mentoring relationship at a small school, where you really have a lot of personal attention and just casual conversations about your career goals and ways that people can help you do that, meet those goals. And so I really was kind of committed to teaching in that environment where I could really know my students on a very personal level, and to help guide them to what strategies will lead you to where it is you would like to be in life.
Right.
Not just as a musician or as an educator, but as a human as well.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the really signature things that you've done, I mean, there's a lot on the list, but I think one of the ones that a lot of people know about is Westmoreland Symphonic Winds, which is a unique ensemble that you created all those years ago. So tell us about it, and then what was why did you create it? What was that like?
Well, so that kind of came from these diverse experiences that I had, recognizing that the small college environment affords a lot of personal attention to solo performing experiences, chamber music experiences, a lot of practicum teaching experiences throughout your education. So you get all of those individual skill building experiences, but it's difficult to maintain instrumentation all the time in a large ensemble because enrollment changes. We've some really fine non-majors that participated, but if they were in the health sciences and this was going to be a semester that was particularly challenging for them as they got ready for their board certification or whatever, I don't think I can play this semester. And so it really kind of created some challenges in terms of long-term programming for the majors, and providing them with a consistent high level of programming. What I learned from being at large schools is that large ensembles are the thing, right? You can enroll them easily, but I often felt sad for the undergraduates at Cincinnati, because they never got to play as soloists in recitals, and they never had chamber ensemble experience, and they never had practicum experiences, and so they got to watch the graduate students do everything. And so I was like, how can I meld the great aspects of both of these experiences for the students here? And ironically, at the same time, I would receive phone calls. Back then it was phone calls, not email, right? So phone calls from folks that would say, hi, I recently relocated to this area. I see that, you're a faculty member in the music department at Seton Hill. I'm looking for opportunities to continue to make music. Can you guide me to any places in the community where that can happen? And we really didn't have too many opportunities back then. The Westmoreland Symphony Orchestra was actually founded with that objective in mind.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that. Okay.
Yes. So Sister Miriam David, who was a piano faculty member here at Seton Hill, and Willard McCalla, who was an engineer for West Penn Power, were the two that joined their efforts to creating a community symphony. And so Westmoreland Symphony rehearsed in Cecilian Hall up on the upper campus, and Dr. Richard Karp was the conductor, who was the conductor of the Pittsburgh Opera Orchestra at the time. He would come out to do those rehearsals. And so for many years it functioned that way, but then it eventually evolved into a regional orchestra with paid professional musicians, and then that community aspect was removed from that. So I thought, well, this should be a pretty easy marriage. I have a need, people in the community have a need, and so that was really I thought, I'm going to give this a shot and see how this goes. And of course, the first community members, most of the first community members that joined me were alumni from here who were familiar with me and wanted to support this initiative. But there were others too from the area. And over time, it's become much more inclusive and serves a much larger population.
So what year are we talking about when this started?
It was probably 85.
Okay.
Something like that.
All right. And so you've talked a little bit about maybe how that has changed over the years, and as I see them perform now, I'm curious if this was like this in the beginning. I mean, you're doing very, very high level literature. This is not a community band. I mean, it's a community band, but this is not a community band. It's not 5 marches being played on a concert. So, has that caused some challenges in some ways? Like, to get people to come and really commit to do this.
No, interestingly, I found that a lot of people want to play quality music, and they want to make music at a high level, and they don't even have to be degreed musicians to have that passion, right? So, ironically, one of my fellow students from elementary through high school, we were drum majors together in high school, very fine French horn player. She's played in symphonic winds since the first year.
Wow.
And has maintained that level of playing. Even though she's not a degreed musician, she just loves making music at that level. And there are a number of folks, and I think that's what really stands out to me about the importance of music in people's lives.
Right.
That they will seek out opportunity to continue to have that experience, to fill up their souls, and to provide that kind of service to one another. And it really is. When you share yourself at that level, the personal connections that you make with the rest of the ensemble members is really meaningful.
Yeah, and I've known so many people who've been in it for years, or are continually in it for all these years, and that's very much the same story I hear. That there are so many benefits of it, and there's a lot of current music teachers, and they just love this opportunity to sit side by side and work with college students.
Yes,
and that's a two-way street there.
It is. It's been really an ongoing practicum mentoring experience for our students to hear people playing at a very high level, and to be inspired by that, And then to have those really informal conversations about, so, you know, you're now a sophomore and you've had a few methods courses. What are you thinking about doing?
Right.
And many times what happens is, would you like to come out and work with my marching band? Would you like to come out and work with my elementary kids? Would you like to play for our school musical? You know, and those experiences are
Absolutely.
huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as I started off, I think the question was like, you know, one of the pieces of your legacy. I mean, this is a huge legacy of yours, but that you've created for the community. You don't conduct anymore,
right?
But obviously, it's still happening. It's still thriving. It's still growing, which is awesome.
It is awesome. Yes.
So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. But you know, I am so grateful to Chris Mara for his leadership and for really embracing the mission of the ensemble and the institution. And ironically, Chris was also a member of one of my high school honor bands.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And when we did the first phone interviews for the position that he's in now, he said to me, I know you probably don't remember me, but I played for you when I was in high school. So to be part of his life's journey is really meaningful for me.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about honors ensembles.
Yes.
So you have done a number of them, and you know, I imagine that there's probably very specific memories, very broad memories. I'm just curious, you know, for your recollection of your time doing all of these honors ensembles.
So many wonderful experiences. What I wasn't prepared for, what I didn't even notice, that often I would be introduced as, our guest conductor this year is, and she is the first woman that has done this county festival, or she is the first woman that has done this district festival, or the first woman who's done this state festival, or whatever. And you know, I was always kind of like, hadn't thought about that, but and I didn't enter the profession for that purpose. I just loved doing what I was doing. That was really, you know, what drove me to do it. So after some of those experiences, I think there were a couple of times that some of the high school band directors said, you know, I had a female student in my band who really should major in music and you know, has all the skills and has the right personality and the passion, but said, I don't know, I mean, what are my options to teach elementary general music, and I don't see myself doing that work. Even though it's valuable, that's not really what my heart is. And after having an experience with a female conductor, then that student said, maybe there are other options out there for me. And so that's been really meaningful for me and now it's really a non-issue, which is wonderful. You know, that's wonderful in itself. Also, you know, to me, good conductors are good teachers. And when you're teaching in an ensemble, good teachers are good conductors, you know. So when you do these festivals, what's the primary goal? Well, you want to help students discover music at a deeper level and to understand why are we playing these notes on the page, and what inspired the composer to bring this piece to us. And you know, you step on the podium in front of an ensemble that you've never worked with before. you've planned, you've programmed, you've studied, and you have a vision. And sometimes the downbeat indicates that your vision
right.
matches, and sometimes it doesn't match. And so learning to be adaptable and fall back upon those teaching skills to make changes and to reach the learners in different places wherever they might be. It was never boring.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Never boring. And also, many of the festivals happen in January and February. Weather in Western Pennsylvania, so many occasions like, oh, we're going to do this in one day, or we're going to do, we're going to cut the late rehearsal and we're going to do the concert early or whatever. So being able to be flexible and adapt, and I think it was a huge learning experience that I could share with the students here about, preparation is key, because you never know how you're going to have to adapt in the moment. But more importantly, what came out of those were the many wonderful relationships that you develop with students and with your colleagues in K through 12 education, parents. So as I was preparing for retirement this year, going through my files and my cabinets, it was pretty easy for me to share my resources with my colleagues and the students here. Help yourself to these books. Help yourself to, whatever would be of benefit to you. And the last thing I did, which I knew would be the most time consuming, was to go through the files of all the personal notes that you receive over the years from students, from parents, from community members. And it just makes you realize that we're so lucky to do the work that we do. Teaching in itself is powerful, but when you teach something that really is affective and reaches people at a deeper level, that's a huge thing. So, do you mind if I share our story?
Please do. So let's let me let the cat out of the bag. I was in a district band in that you were the guest conductor at my senior year of high school. And so, I just found out this story a month or so ago. So and I brought, we have the CD. We pulled the archives out. We have the actual concert program. So tell the story.
Okay, so last year when Chris Mara approached me and said that he would like to initiate the process of commissioning a piece, recognizing me as the founding director of Symphonic Winds and in honor of my retirement, and asked me if I had any particular composers that I would like to represent my work. And I said, okay, give me a little bit of time to think about this, because there's quite a few wonderful humans out there and wonderful composers out there, but there was one instance that really stood out to me. So early in my career, without email available, the way we would communicate with living composers, we'd write a letter, put it in an envelope, put it into the mail. So I had programmed Timothy Marr's Fantasia in G for this honors band, and I wrote to him and asked if there was anything that he would like to share about himself or about the piece that would help the students to better understand his approach to this piece, or him as we put this piece together for him. And he wrote back. And I knew in that moment that he was the real deal, that he took the time to share with me and with the students some information that would be inspiring to bring this piece to life. And then our paths didn't cross for the next 35 years or whatever.
I didn't know that
Yeah,
part. Okay.
we really never communicated beyond that. And so earlier this year, when he was working on the composition, he emailed and asked if we could meet via Zoom. He had some ideas about how he was approaching the piece, because ironically I didn't know it at the time, but you're right, our paths were very similar, because he went back and his whole career was at his undergraduate institution.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. So we shared that in common too. So we met via Zoom. We had a great time just chatting and catching up. And I shared with him the story about writing to him and that he wrote back. And he didn't remember, that. And the next day, actually the next morning, I got an email from him. Oh, during that conversation, he did say to me, if I can give you one piece of advice, if you haven't started to clean out your office yet, you should start now. Because I didn't do it. And then at the end of the year, I was in a panic. What do I do with all of this stuff? I need to get out of here. So he said, now I'm spending $60 a month for a storage unit, because I had to move everything there. And now I have to go there regularly and go through all of these boxes to figure out how to downsize it to at least get it into my garage or whatever. So the very next morning, I received an email from him that said, you are not going to believe this, but I went to the storage unit this morning, and the first file that I picked out of the first box to go through had a letter in it from one of the students in that honors band that you talked about, which was your letter. Yeah. So then several weeks later, as I was going through my files, I also found a letter that you wrote. And when I shared that with the folks here, they said, wink, wink, that is definitely a sign that, that you picked the right person to write this piece. And also, like, the connections in our profession are so meaningful, right? So when you look at the program, right, the program from this one honor band, and you see the names of people that have made significant contributions to the profession and to each other, it really makes you step back and realize, again, what we do is very, very powerful and meaningful. So having you at the concert, at the conference this year, was very meaningful for me. It felt very full circle that, And
I didn't know about this at that moment.
I know that, which makes it even more interesting and meaningful. Right?
Yeah. It's funny, as you mentioned, looking back at the program, and as I looked back at the program, I was like, I didn't know I was in this with this person. People who I've been now friends with for several years now because of meeting them, because they're out in this profession. One of them, I work with his high school marching band on a regular basis. I've known him for many years. We were there together, and now we've started sharing memories. Do you remember when this happened?
Yeah.
And it is amazing the things that maybe when we're an organizer or a conductor of an event like this, we don't see all of those little details. But I look back and, from that district band, there's several memories. I remember, like, you providing us the notes for the pieces we were going to play. And to me, I found that incredibly valuable because, I just played music before. Now I'm learning about what the piece is. And this wasn't just somebody that said, I'm just going to write this piece of music. There's some substance behind the why and that. That was back in the days when you would go to these PMEA events and you would stay at people's houses. And I distinctly remember it was Jeanette High School that hosted it. We stayed at somebody's grandparents' house, a grandparent of somebody in Jeanette's band, and it was during the Olympics. And I love the Olympics. And so did these people. I remember sitting in their living room after rehearsal. It was snowing outside, and we're watching the Olympics. It's those little strange memories that we all have. And I was talking to the band director that I work with, and he said, "Oh, and I remember this, and I remember this, and I remember this." So we don't realize the memories we're creating and the connections that we're creating that might not happen that weekend, but that happen all the way down the line.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Over a lifetime, yes.
So what a story.
Yeah.
And just to cap it a little bit, I found out about that. I'm at the PMEA conference this year, and I'm walking through the hall. Mari Cooper from Fox Chapel flags me down. "Have you seen Kathy Campbell?" I said, "I saw her at the concert yesterday." "Do you know the story?" "What are you talking about?" And she told me the story, and I immediately went to Seton Hill's booth in the exhibit hall. I made a 90-degree turn as soon as she told me, hoping to find you, and
Yeah.
of course there you were.
Yes. And it was my hope to find you at the
Yeah.
conference too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just
Right.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I tell people, and I told you this, there were lessons you taught. You talked earlier about, I'm not just here as a guest conductor, I'm teaching something. There were musical lessons that you taught that I took away from that I still use in my marching band warm-ups, because it stuck with me, and I think sometimes maybe I was exposed to those things somewhere else. But when it's your teacher doing it every day, you might not remember. But when it's someone else at a significant event, you do remember. So I think part of the lesson is, for all of us, is that you never know what impact you're going to have on someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And
in life.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And so I will say, I don't know that we've ever communicated between that district, between that letter
Right.
and a month ago.
Right.
But you definitely were an impactful person to me all of those years.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
yeah.
Life is weird.
Yes. Right.
Life is weird.
But wonderful at the same time.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk a little bit more about that. I'm just how have you seen music education change throughout your career? Are there anything that really sticks out to you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been asked this question pretty regularly this year, as over 4 decades of being in this line of work. And I think there are more challenges now than there were 4 decades ago in terms of understanding the students and the culture. And so what is different? Students today have so many choices in life, so many, overwhelmingly number of choices, right? When I first started to teach, not that many choices, right? The internet wasn't available. So when you talk about having that many choices, I think it adds actually a whole nother level of stress for students because the options are overwhelming, right? The choices that they can make for themselves. So I use the analysis for myself. If you've ever built a house, a custom home, and you know the thousands of choices that you make, from door handles to countertops, whatever it is, each one you're questioning, am I making the right choice for myself? And it adds a little bit more stress and a little bit more stress and a little bit more stress. But that at least is a finite experience. After so many months, your house is done, you're done with that stress. But now it's present all the time, right? Something else came available. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's where I should focus my energy and my time and my commitment. And as you know, social media compounds that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The stress of matching the expectation of others. And so mental health is definitely an issue that has changed significantly over my lifetime, and helping students figure out how to navigate that. I share with them all the time that I was blessed that I didn't have those distractions.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't have a phone. I still don't have a Facebook account. I'm old school that way. Because I would say to them, look, I want to be in the moment with you. I don't want to be reading about living. I want to be living with you right now. So if there would be one thing that would get me connected, it would be to stay connected with my former students. That's probably the downside of that. Right. Even though I have email, it's readily available to stay connected to them. But I think in that regard, that has created even more challenges for today's educator, figuring out how to adapt to the really diverse learners that are in the classroom, and what all of those individual needs are, and what they're struggling with, and what is challenging them. Do I think music is still extremely valuable for the learner? I do. I think more than ever, that experience to work to serve others and serve others' emotional needs through music making is really, really valuable. And then that joint effort to bring something beautiful to life, or something meaningful to life, I think that will never go away. I think students need that. But as I also would often share with my students is, if you do this, if you're called to do this work, this profession, you will never be bored.
Right.
You will never be bored, because you might be teaching the same class or the same ensemble for X number of years, but it is never the same, because the students are different every year. So you have to adapt what you're doing to reaching that population in that moment. And I would often share with them some of the research about how do you navigate transitions. You have to bend but not break. Mm-hmm. You have to let go of the old and embrace the new, and be willing to take risks. What if I try something new? What if I try symphonic winds? Maybe it will serve a greater purpose than what I originally envisioned. I do think that there are probably more challenges now, but I think the impact is even more important now.
Because of the challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because of the need for that really positive human experience,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about social media and the internet, and yeah, I mean, absolutely, that's what's changed life in so many ways. But in a music making experience, the phone is down, and we are in this communal environment, whether it's a chamber ensemble or whether, honestly, really, if it's just you playing by yourself, you're not on your phone. You're in that moment, and I think that is one of the few things left, and especially then when we're in an ensemble, right? To have that, we're all working toward the same thing, and it doesn't have to do with social media or the internet,
right? And also what technology. I mean, there's a lot of good that has come from it, that we have learned new ways to do things more efficiently, but it also, because we get such immediate response, it also makes it more challenging for young people to embrace that patient, repetitive process that takes you to a very high level of skill to do anything well. But how important is that if we can engage a large percentage of our population to know what that feels like, to invest that much time and that much energy and effort into doing something extremely well, what our workforce would be like.
Exactly.
Not just in music, in every profession. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So don't retire.
Yeah.
Because these are good. I mean, these are good life lessons.
Yeah, they are. That's
beyond that. And,
right.
And of course, I mean, that's what all of us in education are doing. We're teaching life too. But
right.
Yeah. So don't retire. But
yeah.
I don't think I can convince you of that. But
yeah, I already started the cleaning process.
Well, then that leads to the next question. So what's next then? I don't sense you're somebody who's just going to sit at home and watch TV.
No, that's not me. But I haven't really spent a whole lot of time yet thinking about that. Just like when I say I don't do social media because I'm in the moment, I want to live in the moment. Well, I've still been living in the moment this year, you know. I wanted to give my students the same energy and the same experience this year that the previous students have had. So I really haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about that. So it will evolve. Whatever is to be will be. There's a couple things that I know I want to do, and that is there are a couple pieces of music in our library that really need to be archived. They were written by the Sisters of Charity, and they're handwritten.
Wow.
Yes, handwritten copies. Last year, well, actually several years ago when we were celebrating the centennial here, I did this for our alma mater. I had found in the library some handwritten parts, but not a complete score and not complete parts. So I put together two versions of the alma mater. The very traditional one that I remember as a student, and then one that I adapted to celebrate the centennial, which starts with a very contemporary introduction and then transitions into the traditional alma mater and then ends with a little coda at the end that's again contemporary. So it really reflects the history of the institution, that where it started. Our motto here is called Hazard Yet Forward. That's our motto, and I think the piece is trying to reflect that we are moving forward, right? So even in terms of our tonal palette, this reflects our past, but also reflects our future. And so my goal is over the next couple years is to score some of these pieces that are in our library, get them, the original pieces, into the archives, and then put the working pieces into our music library here in the building. So
you're not going to be a stranger to campus? No,
I'm not going to be a stranger. I'm going to continue to teach some saxophone lessons for a couple of years. I have some students that have been with me, and I've given them the opportunity, and the door is always open. If you find that the new guy is really cool and you want, can learn something, please don't feel like you're going to hurt my feelings. Go get that experience. But if you want me to stay and see you through, I'm happy to do that as well. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out too.
Well, fantastic. And thanks for taking some time to talk to us today. I mean,
my pleasure, Mark.
Quite an honor for me. As I look back at high school, Mark, I never thought I would be kind of in this situation to be able to sit down and have this wonderful conversation with you. So.
Well, it's really meaningful for me too, Mark, as well. Yeah, kind of brings my career full circle. So thank you.
Appreciate that, and appreciate what you have done for the profession, and for PMEA. Again, PMEA Hall of Famer, just inducted. So fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And thank you all for being with us on this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, the Grove City College Department of Music. We will see you next time.